Hey guys, today on Robbie's Reviews, I am in the 2020 Shelby GT500. I just want to thank HGreg LUX in Pompano Beach, Florida for allowing me to take the GT500 out today to review it, show you guys all of its cool features and technology, and then we're going to get it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. So let's go check it out. Alright guys, here she is, the 2020 Shelby GT500. This example is finished in shadow black with Kona blue stripes that are actually painted on the vehicle and not actually a sticker. It is actually a $10,000 option to have these stripes painted on the car, and they look absolutely magnificent. You can see they're painted on, and right off the bat you can tell this is a fully loaded vehicle, judging by the carbon fiber wheels, which is part of the $18,000 carbon track pack. So it might seem like a lot for a carbon fiber package on a car. When you consider that you get these full carbon fiber wheels as part of the package, it's actually a bargain. Because in most cars nowadays, especially aftermarket, carbon fiber wheels will probably cost you $18,000 alone. And sitting behind those carbon fiber wheels, you have those massive 6-piston Brembos. They're actually 16.5-inch rotors. Now, those are bigger than the wheels on some cars. Now, just like in my GT350R review, you can see that these wheels, while they are exposed carbon fiber, you still have that same kind of ceramic coating, or the white coating behind the wheel here. And that is actually a material that they use on the space shuttle and rockets when they launch into space. So, cool little fact there. Now, coming down the side, of course, you have the Shelby Cobra right there on the fender. You actually won't really find any Ford markings on the outside of this car. As you can see here, you have what is, according to Ford, the largest Cobra emblem they've ever put on the front of a car, or any car period. And you can see Shelby is kind of embossed here into the front splitter, and then it says GT500 right on the front bumper. So it doesn't say Ford anywhere on the front. Now, continuing down the side, you have the carbon mirror caps, which are also part of the carbon track pack. They look absolutely stunning. And coming below the mirrors here, you have these massive side skirts with these side holders here that flare out and go all the way down the door. I thought they would be carbon fiber as part of the carbon track pack, but it looks like Ford decided to do it in this kind of hexagonal mesh pattern here. Very cool. Coming to the back, of course, you have the Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires all around, very sticky, especially when you get them hot. You have the rear carbon fiber wheels, large rear Brembo brakes. Now, they're not carbon ceramic, and I find that interesting. I'm sure there's some reasoning behind why Ford decided to do that. Maybe it was cost, or honestly, who knows. But nonetheless, these are massive steel brakes, plenty of stopping power. All right, coming to the rear of the GT500, and probably my favorite part of the entire car, is this massive rear wing, also part of the $18,000 carbon track pack. You can see here the wing is one solid chunk of carbon fiber. It is adjustable, and you can see on these stanchions down here, it's actually, it looks like a forged carbon. Not sure if you guys can see that. Very, very cool, forged carbon on the stanchions. And it really just makes the look of the rear of the car, honestly. And while if you don't get the carbon track pack, you don't get this wing, you do get a kind of middle of the road wing. Similar to on the new C8, you get kind of a, not a high downforce wing, but you get kind of a spoiler, more of a spoiler instead of an actual wing. However, I think this giant carbon fiber wing really does the car justice. And of course, you have those gorgeous Kona blue stripes that are actually painted on the vehicle. And again, that's a $10,000 option to have them painted on. And then you have the Cobra emblem on the trunk here, as well as the reverse camera. And once again, thank you to HGreg LUX in Pompano Beach, Florida, for allowing me to take the GT500 out today. And moving down, you have a very aggressive diffuser. You have the reverse light down here, and the bumper almost looks like a rain light on an F1 car, where a lot of cars have that nowadays. This is actually this reverse light. And then you have the quad exhaust system. They are real exhaust tips. This exhaust was engineered specifically for this car, and it sounds amazing. Has several different modes. We'll check that out in a little bit. And of course, you have your standard Mustang taillights here. They're full LED units, and it consists of a turn signal, which is actually sequential. It sweeps out, and just the brake light. So the turn signals, brake lights are in this one part here. Reverse light down here. So right now we're going to get to the crown jewel of the GT500, which is that 5.2 liter supercharged V8, otherwise known as the Predator. So we have the hood pull down here. So kind of funny with the new GT500, even though I just pulled the hood release inside the car, you have these old school push pins or hood pins here on each side of the hood. So simply just push in, just like that. And instead of the hood releasing, you actually still have to grab the catch there. So It's kind of redundant, but I guess you could say it's just to hold the hood down at high speeds, as this car is capable of some very high speeds. And without further ado, here we are, the 5.2 liter supercharged V8 that powers the 2020 Shelby GT500. It is paired to a 7-speed Tremec dual clutch transmission that is buttery smooth. Sadly, a manual transmission is not available on the new GT500. However, trust me, that dual clutch is amazing. You can see here the 2.65 liter blower sitting on top of the engine. Now, this does share the block with the GT350 and GT350R, otherwise known as the Voodoo V8. This variant of this engine is called the Predator, made specifically for the GT500. New internals, and pretty much they just reworked the whole engine to be able to handle the boost. And instead of being a flat plane crank V8, it is a cross plane crank. You could see here the Ford Performance strut bar going across, and the huge Shelby Cobra logo there, that snake. And then it says, hand built with pride, GT500. And that's the individual who put together this engine. And it shows the specific line that this engine was produced on. And the packaging is great. I mean, it looks like an American muscle car. You can see that huge V8 just sitting front and center. No huge plastic covers or anything like that. All the plumbing and necessary cooling items, you can see it exposed. It honestly looks like a race car. See the intake here. And thanks to that 2.65 liter supercharger sitting on top of this Predator V8, the new GT500 produces a whopping 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque, making it not only the most powerful Mustang ever, most powerful Shelby, whatever you want to call it, but it is the most powerful Ford vehicle ever produced. Obviously more powerful than the Ford GT, the Raptor, the outgoing GT500, which made a measly 662 horsepower. It actually did make a little bit more torque, but honestly, at the end of the day, this car is just a purebred racetrack monster. Now, the outgoing GT500 really only had an impressive power plant. It had a live rear axle. It was very antiquated, and just you didn't feel confident when you were going to throw the car into a corner. But nonetheless, this is an incredible power plant and an incredible car. You can actually see the intakes in the hood up here. It feeds all the way to the back of the engine, circles around. Very, very nice packaging. So right now we're going to close it up. And the hood pins actually seal themselves up again. And you can see those amazing Kona blue painted stripes. They're not stickers. You don't have to get stripes on this car at all. Actually, the stickers are actually an option. I think it's like $1,000 or so. But these painted ones are $10,000. And to some people that might seem insane, but it's definitely worth it on this vehicle. And you have these very interesting hood louvers. Almost looks like they belong on the back of a 1980s Camaro, but it's fitting here. You have this massive power dome sticking out of the hood, goes all the way up, and when you're driving it, especially with the low down seating position of the new GT500, it's definitely a crazy view through the front windshield. And something I want to point out is this is a 2020 Mustang. However, it has the pre-facelift front end. And part of the reason for that is Ford actually realized that the cooling was better on the pre-facelift over the new one. And honestly, looks-wise, I really do prefer these headlights. I prefer this front bumper. The new Bullet Mustang and the new 5.0s and stuff, they just don't look as aggressive as this pre-facelift. Now, obviously, all the Shelbys have the same pre-facelift look. The GT350R went up to 2020, and then you have this 2020 GT500. The 350R is no longer in production, so for now you just have the GT500. But what an incredible looking machine. Of course, one of the downsides to having a pre-facelift front end is if you get the bi-xenon headlights instead of the LED headlights, and you get incandescent turn signals down here. But honestly, aftermarket, you could switch them out for LEDs, and I know a lot of people that have done that. But nonetheless, very, very good looking front end. Once again, it says GT500 right there. The big Cobra logo, Shelby. And actually on the side, there's nothing that says Ford. I know I was talking about that earlier. Actually, the only thing that does say Ford are the center caps or the carbon fiber wheels. So it's just something you have to look at. Obviously, if you're a car enthusiast and you like Mustangs, especially Shelbys, you're going to know this car is a Ford right off the bat. You're obviously going to know it's the new GT500. So it doesn't say GT500 anywhere on the back. And it's just one of those cars that if you know, you know. A lot of people are going to think this is just a souped up Mustang. but the ones that know just how special of a vehicle this is. And actually, one thing I want to point out with the carbon fiber mirrors, you actually have the blind spot monitoring system right there, right in the mirror. And that's part of the optional technology pack. And like I was saying earlier, this car is fully loaded. I don't believe it's missing any options, and it really shows. I mean, between the carbon track pack, the painted stripes, all the exterior carbon here, just a really stunning car. And one thing I do want to point out is with the new GT500, you actually have remote start, which has not been previously offered on other Shelbys, as they were all manual transmissions. So got the key here. You have the Shelby Cobra logo on the back. It's being blocked by a sticker right now, but you got the Cobra logo. Your regular buttons here, lock, unlock, panic, trunk opener, and then you have remote start. So lock. So the car starts up with the exhaust in the sport mode. This is not even the track mode, believe it or not. We're going to get a little sound clip of that in a little bit. But right now we're going to step inside the 2020 GT500 and check out the interior. So you can see another place that it actually says Ford is right here on the door sill, Ford Performance. And you also have these optional Recaro racing buckets, which are manual and they're not heated or cooled, but they do have the Shelby Cobra logo on them. There's amazing white accents. They're actually leather trimmed and they have full Alcantara in the inside so you don't slide around. So let's step inside. Close it up. Now, since we did remote start, we just have to press the engine start button, which is over here. Very, very cool. You can get a little startup animation. Now, one of the main party tricks of the interior of the new GT500, and it's also on other new 5.0s and stuff, but specially skinned for the new GT500, is this fully digital gauge cluster, which you can actually change the design or the display just by going through the modes. So we have the mode selector down here, which is in the form of this cool toggle switch. So we have normal mode, sport, track, drag strip, slippery, back to normal. Now you notice it didn't change the display. That's because the previous owner or whoever was driving this vehicle before chose to have the display set to this kind of like race mode where the tachometer kind of unravels and you get the large speedometer, goes 200 miles an hour, and you get all your boost gauge, oil pressure, battery voltage, stuff like that. So to change that, you simply hit the Cobra logo here on the steering wheel. It actually takes you to My Mode, Cobra. So you hit OK, show status. You can add a My Mode, but if not, you can go back. Performance shift indicator, gauges, configure my gauges. So you have air fuel ratio, axle oil temperature. There's not many cars that'll tell you the axle oil temperature, similar to the GT350R I reviewed. You can do engine oil pressure, also cylinder head temperature. That's another one that another car won't show you, at least not that I've seen. Engine oil temp, inlet air temperature, manifold charge temp. I don't think I've seen that before. Trans oil temp, vacuum boost voltage. So go back, and if we hit the Cobra button again, takes you into exhaust mode, cluster appearance, my color, which you can actually configure the different colors you want. So blue, orange, red. Since the car has blue stripes, we'll leave it on blue where it already was. You have secondary color. You can actually create a color. So you have all these different hues you can go through. Very, very cool. Oops, accidentally just hit the voice commands. Speaking of the voice commands, this has the latest generation of the Ford Sync or My Sync system, whatever it is, Sync 3, which actually got a bad rap the first couple of years that it was out in different vehicles like the Explorer, Mustang, Expedition, Taurus, and stuff like that.
Please say a command.
Turn it off. Cancel. It is a touchscreen. You do have actually pretty decent navigation. You can pinch to zoom, stuff like that. Audio, you have your different settings. Nothing really crazy when it comes to the infotainment of this car. It's not anything like a lot of luxury vehicles, but you do have your basic settings. You have your general settings, Bluetooth. You can change the touchscreen beep, all the different units. Let's see what else we have. Vehicle. Really nothing there. Display. You can change your background brightness. There's your Ford Pass Connect, valet mode. Here's your climate control settings. Pretty standard. I will say it is pretty snappy. I have used Sync before, and it was pretty bad, but lately I've been using it, when I was in the new Ford F-250, the Expedition, the GT350R that had a technology pack, and now this car that has the technology pack, which gives you things like the navigation. And then you have your AC controls down here. Normally, if this was let's say a fully loaded 5.0 that had the option or the comfort convenience package, it would have heated and ventilated seats. This vehicle has neither, but you do have very straightforward AC controls. I love this kind of toggle switch. Very, very cool. Goes up and down, has nice knurling on it. And then you have your engine start stop button, hazard lights, traction control off, exhaust modes, and then your driving modes. And then before we continue with the gauge cluster, I just want to show you guys down here in the central tunnel. What looks like a wireless charging pad is actually just a place to put your phone. You do have a little cigarette lighter, little USB port there. And one of my main gripes or complaints with not just the new GT500, but other Mustangs in general, they've really just never really been up there as far as quality goes. The fit and finish is, it is solid. It's a well put together car. However, some of the materials just has me scratching my head. You have this very, very weird kind of fake metallic looking plastic finish. And being that this car is not manual, you have this very weird kind of like rotator dial shifter here. So you just put your foot on the brake and then you go into reverse. You have your reverse camera there with the active guidance lines. You have neutral, drive, manual, then back to park. You have your electronic parking brake. And then you just have this awkward open space, which I understand is just a place to rest your hand if you want to put it into reverse and drive and all that. You have two pretty sizable cup holders. Something that is surprising is this kind of mimics the Recaro seats. It is lined in leather, so your leg can rest against it. Honestly, like I was saying, this kind of area here for the shifter, I guess Ford really didn't know what to put, considering that all of their Shelbys and most Mustangs in general are manual. However, this car being having the 7-speed Tremec dual clutch, they just had to go with this weird little shifter. It's not like it's bad quality. It has the same cool knurling that's on the AC controls, but honestly, just a small gripe. And once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. Just it seems out of place in a near 800 horsepower track monster. But continuing on, starting off with the steering wheel here, you have an amazing steering wheel. It is fully wrapped in Alcantara and leather on the bottom. We have the racing line up here in this white leather. Again, kind of mimics the Recaro seats where you have this white leather throughout. Large Cobra logo on the horn cover. And then you have this cool kind of dark chrome or brushed finish here for the trim. You have all your different controls for your navigation, the Cobra mode that I just showed you, settings, phone, music. Over here you have all your volume controls. Now down here it gets interesting. So right here you have a symbol of a little suspension damper, and then you have a steering wheel down here, similar to in the GT350R I reviewed. And if you hit the suspension damper here, it actually takes you to this little screen here that cycles through the suspension modes, just like in the GT350R. So you have sport, normal, really just sport and normal. And the new GT500 does have magneto-rheological dampers. The ride quality is amazing. It's very stiff when you want it to be, but also it could be a daily driver if you want it to be. And the same thing goes for the steering wheel. So if you hit the little steering wheel button over here on the gauge cluster, you have normal steering, sport, comfort, normal. Now when I reviewed the GT350R, which had basically the same steering system, I had it on sport. Of course, then you have comfort and normal. But this is one of those cars similar to the 350R. Even though I haven't really taken this out on the road yet, I've only driven it up from the HGreg LUX parking garage to get to the roof here to review it. Based on some opinions of friends that I have that own the new GT500 and they've driven it, and some videos I've seen on YouTube, this car really outshines the GT350R in every way. Even though it is heavier, this car weighs about 4,100 pounds. Now speaking of weight, which this car actually sheds a little bit off of the base curb weight of about 4,200 pounds or so, thanks again to that carbon track pack. You have no rear seats, so no back seats, really just have some extra storage. But yeah, so this car is heavier than the 350R. However, just based on things I've read, articles, and opinions I've gotten from friends, this is Ford's best performing Mustang yet. And that's hard to believe because when I drove the GT350R, it felt more like an American Porsche GT3 RS than anything. It felt nothing like the Mustang. So I've got high expectations for this GT500, and I can't wait to get it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. Before we do that, we're going to continue on with the gauge cluster here. So we're going to go back. We'll go to cluster appearance. We have sport mode, track mode. Let's see what that looks like. Let me go back. Track mode's very interesting. I feel like I prefer sport mode. Track mode kind of gets rid of the traditional looking gauges. You have kind of this racy looking bar here for the attack. It is really cool how it changes color. And then if we go back once again, cluster appearance, have normal. And that takes us, let's see what that one is. That's just your typical gauges. Although probably the most interesting one is, let's see here. Change with drive mode. See, that's what I was trying to do before. So when I changed the mode down here, I was expecting the gauge cluster to change. So now we're going to change it with that. So now, when we go back home, so right now we have the mode selector here. There's normal, sport, changes again, and then track mode, which changes even more. It says for track use, see manual. Then let's see what else you have. Drag strip, doesn't really change. Slippery, goes back to the regular gauges. And we'll leave it in sport. Honestly, I think sport is my favorite gauge. See what that looks like. That's cool. Definitely one of the coolest digital gauge clusters I've seen yet on any car, to be honest. And part of that carbon track pack, which again is $18,000. Now I know that's getting up to the level of some Porsches and Mercedes-Benzes and even Bentleys and Rolls-Royces. You do get a lot for your money. So along with everything on the exterior, you have the carbon mirror caps, of course that amazing carbon fiber rear wing, the carbon fiber wheels. You also get the carbon fiber trim all over the dashboard, starting at the headlight controls here, going all the way across to the air vents. Of course you have 2 air vents here, but then you have an oil pressure gauge and an oil temperature gauge going all the way to the passenger side, where you actually have the plaque. As you guys know, GT500s are all numbered vehicles, so this is the chassis number for this car. And I'm not quite sure how many they made total. I just know that they're numbered, just like GT350s and 350Rs. And pretty cool on the floor mats. They're actually outlined in blue. You have the GT500 logo, Shelby GT500 with the Cobra. And once again, these amazing Recaro seats. They're actually pretty comfortable. I'm a bigger guy, and just like when I was in the 350R, the seats were very comfortable. Where in the 350R, they were kind of trimmed in black and the red. Here it's the white leather with the black Alcantara, and then the black leather on the outside with white contrast stitching. It's a very, very nice looking seat, and it definitely, I feel like it would definitely keep you in when you're on a racetrack or just driving spiritedly on public roads. And honestly, I know I was complaining earlier about kind of the materials down here and the layout they chose, but I mean, it works. It's simple. These aren't luxury cars. The Mustang has never been about fit and finish and quality and all that and craftsmanship. Especially the GT500 or any Shelby really. It's just a weapon, a performance tool to use to basically destroy the competition. As far as the sound system, I don't know what sound system it is. I think it's Bose or something like that. I mean, there's a speaker up here on the A-pillar. Oh, actually, here we go. It is the Bang & Olufsen sound system. So it's probably not the same Bang & Olufsen you find in BMW. However, I have heard the same system in the new F250. And while I don't think there's as many speakers in here as there is in the F250, I'm sure it sounds great. For copyright reasons, can't play any music right now. But it is a fully loaded car, technology pack, Bang & Olufsen, carbon track pack, the painted stripes, which you can actually see there just at the front of the hood, Kona blue. And really, really love the steering wheel. Now, something else I want to show you guys on the 2020 GT500 are the 4 different exhaust modes. So just by hitting this toggle down here, right now we're in quiet mode, so the valves are closed, it's very quiet. Then we get into normal, got a little bit louder. Sport got a little bit louder still. And then track mode, which is absolutely brutal. Here, take a listen to this. And you get just a hint of that 2.65 liter supercharger. Honestly, just a brutal sounding car. Also, one touch power windows for both sides. Pretty cool. And really nothing special up here, although it does say Ford up here in the windshield, so that's another place that says Ford on this car. That is 3 places that I counted. Pretty standard rearview mirror as far as the control for the lights. Standard little incandescent or halogen lights, nothing crazy up there. You have your home link for your garage door opener right there. But the real star of the show with this car is just honestly the drivetrain. The steering, suspension, the engine, transmission. That is really just the bread and butter of this car. It makes the new GT500 really set apart from its competition. Honestly, as far as its price goes, yes, it's a $130,000 Mustang at the end of the day. That is outrageous, and there's a lot of things in this car that don't warrant that price tag. However, in my opinion, if it's anything like the GT350R I drove, the driving experience alone will be worth the price of admission. Alright guys, so now we're going to get the 2020 GT500 out on the road and see what it's like to drive. It's a very nice day today in South Florida. Right now I have the exhaust in quiet mode because honestly, if it was in any of the other modes, I'm not sure you guys would be able to hear me. But right now I do have it in sport mode. Track mode is a little bit too much for the street. And honestly, I just prefer the way that the gauge cluster appearance is with sport mode. So right now, got the exhaust quiet mode. The steering is actually in, let's see, steering, we've got comfort. We'll put it into normal. Actually got a little bit tighter. Normal, sport, comfort. You know what? We'll put it into sport. And then suspension, we will put into sport. So the car immediately just got stiffer. It has those magneto-rheological dampers, and steering response, just like the GT350R that I reviewed, is honestly, no surprise, amazing. The downshifts from that 7-speed dual clutch transmission are nice and smooth. You know what, we'll put the exhaust into normal is good enough for now. You guys can probably hear it. Let's make a little right turn here. So right now we're going to step on it. Wow, honestly, I couldn't even get out of that gear. And I do have to keep a lookout because there are a lot of cops in this area, and this is not a car I want to get pulled over in. But yeah, that was just flat out planting it. Normally, a car like this might be intimidating, 760 horsepower, but with those Sport Cup 2s, it really does put the power down nicely. Man, that dual clutch is great. I honestly don't miss having a manual transmission. The 6-speed transmission, the manual transmission in the 350R was great. Clutch was awesome. However, these paddle shifters are nice. And then hold it, takes you back into auto. Honestly, what a fantastic transmission. Going over some train tracks here. The sport suspension soaked it up nicely, but I do wish I was in comfort for that. Here we go, I'm gonna drop it again. Yeah, wow, the power gets put down so violently, but it just hooks. I mean, I honestly don't know how it does it. Those massive 6-piston brakes, 16.5-inch rotors, they feel great. Right now I've got the exhaust in normal mode. I probably don't even need to be talking as loud as I am. Actually, here's track mode. Gets a lot louder. We'll go back into quiet for now so I can hear myself think. Actually, the turn signal chime is really not that annoying either. Some cars, I just don't even use the turn signals because it's so annoying. Honestly, this is the second, or actually this is the third Shelby that I've ever driven. I have driven a 2014 GT500. That was a fun car, but a little bit simple, basic when it comes to driving dynamics. It was really just a big engine, simple transmission, and not the most sophisticated chassis. The GT350 and the 350R, those are real track cars. The driving dynamics of those cars is so rewarding as a driver. I would love to experience one on a racetrack. However, for the time being, I just have local roads. And now being in the 2020 GT500, the claims that this car is more dynamic than the 350R as far as braking, steering, throttle response, everything. I mean, look at this. This does not feel like a Mustang. And I've said before with the 350R, it felt like an American GT3 RS. This feels like an American GT2 RS. So same driving dynamics, just like the GT3 RS, steering, suspension, and all that. However, you get the added horsepower, 700 horsepower, with those two turbochargers. In this case, we have a front-mounted supercharged V8. So I would call this the GT2 RS of the American car world. Honestly, it's comfortable. Like right now, I'm in sport mode with the dampers. With the Sport Cup 2 tires, you do feel everything in the road. They're not noisy like our 888Rs, and I haven't really driven enough yet to get them hot. But honestly, the roads are dry right now, and I mean, actually, you know what? Let me drop some gears right here. Yeah, it's one of those cars that you can't get the smile off your face. It's just such a rewarding driving experience. The dual clutch transmission really is incredible. Actually, I thought they were going to put the 10-speed from the ZL1 and the new Raptor and even the new Escalade in this car. I thought they were going to do that new 10-speed that Ford and Chevrolet co-developed together. However, they have a Tremec engineered 7-speed dual clutch transmission in this car, and it is a perfect pairing to that 5.2 liter supercharged Predator V8. Once again, brakes are amazing. There's no auto hold features or start stop or anything like that. This is not a luxury car. It's not trying to be one. I was talking earlier how the interior appointments are really not that nice. I mean, you do have some hard, scratchy plastics here and there, some soft touch plastic, a lot of fake stitching. I do love the carbon fiber on the dashboard. Love the steering wheel. The driver zone is the most important part of this car. Love the gauge cluster. Seating position is fantastic. These Recaro seats, heavily bolstered, very comfortable. I'm a bigger guy. I'm perfectly comfortable in these seats. There is more of a comfort seat that you can get with this car. However, it doesn't look as cool and not nearly as functional, especially when it comes to taking corners hard. I will say this car does get a lot of looks. It's completely blacked out. I mean, it's got the black carbon fiber wheels, the shadow black paint, and does have the Kona blue stripes. But other than that, it really doesn't look like a special car to anyone that doesn't know about cars. But anyone who knows this is the new GT500, they are definitely breaking their necks. I've already had a few people stop me and ask me if it's the new GT500, because there are actually some companies that are making body kits for new for GT350s as well as 5.0s and even the new facelifted Mustangs. But right now, just driving in regular traffic here in South Florida, it's actually a very docile car when you don't have your right foot planted. And we're going to put the suspension into normal. Immediately softens up. You don't get this. You don't get the crazy, the bumpy effect where every little hump in the road just breaks your back. Steering in sport feels very nice and tight, although I'm going to put it into comfort's a little bit too light unless you're in a parking lot. Full lock in this car, the turning radius is awful. I'm just going to say that. I don't know if it's because of the just the steering ratio or the Sport Cup 2 tires. However, overall driving experience, fantastic no matter what driving mode you're in. So right now I'm going to put the exhaust into track mode. Yep, that's sport. It's track mode. And I'm gonna get some, once we get some room, we actually have it looks like a Z06 behind us. I'm gonna plant it right here. Yeah, it's, actually I'm putting the suspension back into sport. It just feels amazing. Do some downshifts here. Is it a Z06? Yep. Brand new Z06, looks like torch red. And I'm gonna need all the turning radius I can get right here. Let's see if it's enough. All right, make this U-turn here. And it is not enough. Definitely a wide U-turn. Yeah, guys, the new GT500 is just an amazing experience. It's really, honestly, can't be matched as far as other American cars I've driven. The new GT500 honestly beats out all its competition. Not only the other Shelbys in the lineup, the 350, 350R, the other Fords, but also the Dodges and the Chevrolets. The new ZL1, I haven't driven the ZL1 1LE, but I just have a feeling it doesn't feel like this on the road, nonetheless on a racetrack. And the Demon that I've driven, the red eye, narrow body and wide body red eyes, wide body Charger, Hellcat, Challenger, all those cars are just a lot of horsepower at a very, very heavy platform, no chassis refinement. The Ford performance engineers and the Shelby engineers, they spent a lot of time with this car, just like the 350R and the 350, and they just really honed everything they possibly could to make this car the ultimate precision tool. Once again, I can't thank HGreg LUX in Pompano Beach, Florida enough for allowing me to take this car out today. And if you're in the market for a very, very high performance track car, American built, lots of horsepower, on, like I was saying, the most powerful Ford ever made. As far as horsepower goes, yes, this makes technically less than the red eye, but I'll take less horsepower just for the sheer handling and performance capabilities that this car has. All right, guys, well, that should do it for this review of the 2020 Shelby GT500. Once again, I just want to thank HGreg LUX in Pompano Beach, Florida, for allowing me to take the GT500 out today to review it, show you guys what it's all about. See you next time.